Our format is designed as a webinar and will flow in such a way that we will give Cathy an opportunity to introduce herself. Then I will ask her some prepared questions about her platform, and afterward, we will open it up to the audience for those of you who would like to ask questions. You may have already noticed that your audio and video is muted, but don't worry, we see you, we know you're there, and you can feel free to ask questions throughout the meeting using the Q&A feature. We will do our best to get to all of your questions in our time frame. If Cathy does not answer your particular question live due to time constraints, please be sure to check your email. Our committee members are keeping track of all the questions you're submitting, and Cathy will personally respond afterward. Okay, so now that we have all that out of the way, I'd like to take a moment to introduce Cathy to all of you. I've known Cathy a long time, almost half my life. She was my IB Honors World History teacher when I was a senior in high school, and she has always been one of my greatest supporters, from the classroom and the athletic field to motherhood, and honestly, everything in between. And so now it's my honor and pleasure to support her as one of her committee members on her campaign. My husband Mike and I, we have 2 boys, ages 4 and 6, and when we decided to move to Claremont, Cathy was the first person I called. And honestly, she's gone above and beyond to show me the ropes. As an elementary school mama, I am so grateful for her guidance. I trust Cathy as I would trust my own mother. She's more than just my former teacher. She's like family to me. She is trustworthy, unbelievably caring, and one of the smartest and hardworking people I know. When it comes to the education of my children and who I would want in a leadership position in our district, I can't think of anyone more perfect. Cathy Archer has my full-fledged endorsement, and I hope that if she doesn't have yours, by the end of this meeting, she will. So without further ado, I'd like everyone out there in the internet world to give a warm welcome to my friend Cathy. Hey Cathy, how are you over there? Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what inspired you to run for this position?
I am so sorry, everybody.
There you are. Let's start over.
I'm going to start over. I was muted. Rookie. I honestly haven't done that yet. Hi, everybody. I'm Cathy Archer. I'm running for one of the 2 open positions on the Claremont Unified School District School Board in the November election. I've lived in South Claremont for 25 years. My husband, Bill, and I have a 15-year-old daughter, Shelby, who is a sophomore at Claremont High School. For the past 23 years, I've worked at Charter Oak High School in Covina. Throughout my tenure there, I've held numerous leadership roles on campus, including department chair, leadership chair, WASC team chair, and I also coordinate the International Baccalaureate and Advanced Placement programs at the high school, and I teach world history. Before I became a teacher, I was a criminal defense attorney in Rancho Cucamonga. I'm running for school board to broaden my service in public education. In the upcoming election, there are 2 experienced women stepping down from the current board, and I've been encouraged by colleagues and community members to run, and it would be my honor to fill one of those vacant seats. You may recognize me as a member of the Measure G steering committee, which helped pass a $58 million bond in 2016 to repair and modernize CUSD facilities. In addition, I have served as a member of the board of directors of the Claremont Educational Foundation. And I am passionate about public education. In fact, nothing makes me prouder than I have 2 former students on my committee. And I hope to bring my skills and experience to the Claremont Unified School District School Board. I consider myself to be a practical and pragmatic educator. And as a member of the CUSD board, I plan to work collaboratively with our community to enhance existing programs and champion new opportunities. And most importantly, to support students, their families, and educators in the district.
Thank you so much, Cathy. I'd like to take some time now to ask some prepared questions specifically related to Cathy's campaign platform. So, Cathy, one of the major priorities of your campaign is educational equity. How do we ensure equity for all Claremont Unified School District students, particularly in a distance learning scenario?
Thanks, Janessa. So in the fall, the district has announced that all students in grades 3 through 12 will have access to a device. In the spring, remember that El Roble and San Antonio High School, along with all AVID students, were one-to-one with technology, meaning every student had a device. Claremont Unified School District checked out approximately another 1,105 devices, as well as 25 hotspots. Many of these were personally delivered to students' homes. During the spring, principals reported back that approximately 60 students had little to no contact district-wide. Now that's a relatively low number, but still not equitable for all. I've spoken with district staff and Dr. Elsasser, and I know that there is a strong desire to ensure access to technology for all students. Because of SB Senate Bill 98's requirement for live instruction or synchronous, meaning the teacher and the student are live on a Zoom meeting, and there are mandated minutes, students will have full access to curriculum and textbooks as well. Everybody really scrambled after March 13th to get kids online, and CUSD was very successful. But as we near the opening of school, CUSD is in a much better place to ensure equity. So outside of COVID, we always need to be mindful of the idea that in achieving equity, we're not necessarily teaching to the lowest common denominator, but as teachers, we're offering differentiated instruction to a large group of students to meet individual needs. And it's no secret that on the road to achieving equity, the same students will always rise to the top because of the availability of external resources, after-school tutoring, parent education level, summer programs. So what can we do as a community to help solve that gap? In our community, we're fortunate to have some resources to assist in closing that gap. There's always room for more. So if you raise the overall level of instruction, all students will benefit. And unfortunately, the gap continues to grow. People say a rising tide lifts all ships, but really and truthfully, the focus should be on what each student needs to help him or her access the content being presented. So that comes in the form of not only differentiated instruction, but tiered intervention for those students that really need it. For instance, a tier 2 intervention might look like a teacher working, one teacher, 8 students, 5 days a week. Or a tier 3 intervention might be a student and teacher working one-on-one for 300 minutes a week. So I see the issue of equity through the eyes of a teacher. And what do I need to do to ensure that each one of my students has the ability to achieve? Because that's really what we're going for, right? We want every kid to be successful in their own way. So as a board member, it's my responsibility to ensure that the district is supporting teachers through this work, whether it be financially or with programming or professional development. And those are really my sort of long thoughts on equity.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Cathy. And that actually brings us to another one of your platform points, responsible fiscal management. In this time of fiscal uncertainty, what does responsible fiscal management look like to you?
Most importantly, Claremont Unified School District wants to keep families in the district. They've worked hard to plan and offer 3 educational options to support the diverse needs of our community during these times. And we'll talk about those in a few minutes, hopefully. And so let's talk a little bit about the budget. The budget that was adopted in its revised form in June avoided the deep cuts that we were anticipating this year. There's also some additional one-time funds that will help CUSD get through the 2021 school year. And this district has always been fairly fiscally conservative and worked well with the employee associations and the board. And from what I've learned in my meetings with district staff and Dr. Elsasser, everyone comes together to make concessions that keep cuts as far away from the classroom as possible. And Claremont is different from surrounding districts, those districts that receive concentration funds, because funding for school district comes in several different forms, and districts get some extra funding based on what's called the unduplicated pupil count. And when you're, and those are specific groups of students, foster, homeless, etc. And so those are called concentration funds. And you have to, over a 3-year period, on average, qualify for those concentration funds. Claremont doesn't. So really only 5% of CUSD's budget comes from those supplemental funds. And so the overall budget has constraints that other districts often don't have. So I support the idea of fiscal conservancy, and I'm committed to working together with district staff and the associations to get through the tough times that are coming.
Thanks, Cathy. That's really good information to know. Safety and wellness is also another priority of your campaign. Recently, there has been extensive conversation throughout the community about having a police presence in our schools and whether or not that funding should be reallocated for other programs and services. You and I have had the opportunity to talk about this in detail, and I just wanted you to take a few minutes to share your perspective with everyone here.
So I realize that this issue is currently at the forefront of many community conversations, and it's a very important one. I support the district's choice to fund a school resource officer for many reasons, which I'll get to in a moment. However, I also recognize the absolute need for increased counseling and mental wellness services. However, those 2 issues are not mutually exclusive. One does not supersede the need for the other. Let's first talk about why I support a school resource officer and how, as an educator and a community member, I've seen firsthand the valuable services they provide versus some of the images we see out in the public. First of all, the school resource officer at the high school is capable of issuing or enacting the 5150 orders, where a student who is in danger of harming themselves or others can be taken to a hospital. If that is done by the school resource officer, the good thing about that is that the school is notified when the student is released from the hospital, so that the school can have a return from hospital meeting and provide support services for the students. Additionally, the school resource officer holds in-services for staff on the latest drugs, what's out on the street and what are the kids doing and what do they look like. Also, the school resource officer is involved at Claremont High School in weekly SST meetings to discuss at-risk students. It's an uncomfortable reality that school violence exists, and whether it is student to student, student versus teacher or staff, Those are scenarios that require professional de-escalation to minimize harm and ensure safety. And as a teacher, I'm not trained to de-escalate violent situations, but the SRO is trained for that and has immediate or better response time than other members of law enforcement. I do support framing the program in such a way that we can provide our community with an opportunity for reconciliation. I feel that our SRO should always be someone that students can look up to and have a positive interaction with. And I'm committed to participating in productive discussions about this issue in the future. There's always room for growth and change. So in the Claremont Unified School District, the SRO program costs $65,000. The cost of providing mental wellness professionals with reasonable access for students at 7 elementary schools, a middle school, and 2 high schools far supersedes the cost of the SRO program. So eliminating one program will not adequately fund the other and provide the appropriate services our students need. The district has a number of mental wellness resources and partnerships with providers in the community, but there is a need for more. And I support continued conversation about how to adequately fund and provide these services. So, and if I'm elected, I'm absolutely committed to helping find solutions and supporting mental wellness among our students and our staff.
Thank you so much, Cathy. I love your perspective on that obvious important issue going on in our community, and I appreciate your stance on that. So now we are going to transition into asking some questions from the community. Are you ready for it? The first one is, what is your opinion regarding interdistrict transfers here in Claremont?
Okay, thank you, Janessa. Okay, so 26% of the enrollment of Claremont Unified School District is through interdistrict transfers. Those are students who come from other school districts. And the great thing about this program is that it brings all sorts of students into the district, and it creates a richer pool of students. Their parents contribute in different kinds of ways through involvement in campus activities and PFA. IDTs also have, they give Claremont residents the opportunity for school choice. Additionally, there is a financial benefit to interdistrict transfers. As we say at my school district, it puts butts in seats. And that's not a bad thing, to fill seats. It helps it stabilizes enrollment. It's really important to recognize that CUSD is in declining enrollment, and bringing in students on interdistrict transfers helps to stabilize enrollment. It allows us to run our schools so that the district can provide diverse and plentiful programming, band, orchestra, choir, electives, and multiple sports at both the elementary and secondary levels. Perfect.
Okay, so for our next question, you had to know this one was coming. This is pretty important for today, actually. From a teacher's perspective, can you explain the difference between the distance learning programs that CUSD is offering to families this year?
Yes, I can. Having sat in on the meeting last week and the board meetings over the last couple of weeks, I just would like to say, really, the district has gone above and beyond the call of duty to really try and meet the needs of the families of the district. So there are 3 programs, and today is the last day that that families have to make their choices. So if you have not done so already, make sure you do that when we get off this call. Okay, we'll start with the blended program. So the blended model is daily, synchronous, and asynchronous learning with site-based teachers. Meaning, if your student is a Sycamore student and you choose blended, you will be assigned the Sycamore teacher. Synchronous means live on the air programming with students and teachers on a Zoom or Google Meet. And then asynchronous means that students are doing activities or independent work assigned by their teacher, or in the case of the middle school and high school, teachers. The core program is full-time online instruction with a core teacher, but it might not necessarily be from your school site. These are full-time classes that will deliver online curriculum that is being developed by CUSD and by Edgenuity, which is an online curriculum facilitator. At the elementary level, all grade levels, TK through 6, will be developed using district-approved curriculum that has been used in prior years. At the secondary level, the courses that are being developed are also using district-approved curriculum that has been used in the past. And most of the core classes, PE, math, English, science, and social science, are still being developed. There will be a few honors English classes in grades 9 and 10 being developed. However, higher level math, science, English, social science, including AP, and most importantly, electives, are not being developed for core. Also, IB courses and AVID will not be available in core either. They will have a few select AP courses available on Edgenuity. Okay, third program is CHAMP, and that is a homeschool program built by Claremont Unified School District. This is where the parent or guardian is the facilitator of the learning. The parent or guardian will meet for 60 minutes a week or the student and parent will meet with a Claremont teacher. The reason they came up with this program is to allow for those parents who have some, they need to have some flexibility in their schedule. So the parent becomes the facilitator of the learning. There is no AP or IB in the CHAMP program. So if you are in core or CHAMP, the district is asking for a full semester commitment at the secondary level due to staffing at the school sites and class sizes. And they did discuss working individually with families if there was a need to change mid-semester. They can't make a guarantee due to staffing and hiring because staff is being assigned based on the numbers at registration. They also can't make a guarantee that you'll get your home site if your student comes back from core or CHAMP into blended, okay? And they'll make every effort in the following school year, however, to return all students to their sites. So it's a little complicated, but it's important that everybody makes their choices tonight.
Yeah, got it. That's a lot of information. Thank you so much. I know I could always use the reminder. It's been a lot for parents. And I guess the question we're probably all wondering, though, is what would you do, Cathy?
So I am a teacher parent, and in the old days, I was a high school teacher of a little kid. Now I'm a high school teacher of a high schooler. Either way, whether she was in elementary school or high school, I would always opt for a professional educator to work with my child. I'm a different teacher to my own child than I am to my students because of the family dynamic. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. Picture yourself sitting at the kitchen table with your student doing homework. And I really do recognize, however, that some families don't have the flexibility to opt for the very structured schedule required by the blended or core programs. So CHAMP is still a CUSD planned and recognized program. And I'm really glad that this question has come up because I hope it gives everybody some comfort in the choices that you've made for your students this year.
Definitely, it gives me comfort. I appreciate you. This is actually a really good follow-up question to that one. This person asked, as an educator, how do you feel the district can better support our vulnerable populations during this time of distance learning?
Well, the simple answer is that teachers will support students with IEPs in the same way they always have, through differentiated instruction based on the learning goals written for the individual student. Prescribed services may include a combination of synchronous and asynchronous supports, along with consultation with the parent or guardian for independent practice activities to support the goals of the IEP. Beyond that, the burden is really placed on the case carrier or support provider to make sure the IEP and goals are appropriately communicated to all parties involved. If there is pullout or specialized instruction, and when I say pullout, I mean when a student is pulled out of their regular classroom to work with another support provider in accordance with their IEP. Those specialized instructors will provide their services remotely according to the designated schedule. Parents and guardians will have an opportunity to discuss their student's IEP with their student's educational team once assignments have been made. And so this is kind of unique to the distance learning setting. The parents are going to have to assist in supporting their students' accommodations at home. This is totally new and uncharted territory. And everyone on the IEP team is really going to have to work together to ensure the success for the students. And, you know, face-to-face experience and regular communication has always been standard practice for IEP teams. On a district level, CUSD has thoroughly planned for IEP implementation in the distance learning environment, but really distance is the new reality. So it's vital that parents at home continue to communicate and reach out so that we can ensure that, or that the district can ensure that everyone is in compliance with the student's IEP.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely going to take a partnership, I think, between us parents at home and the teachers in the schools. So it's going to be challenging, but I'm looking forward to it, I think. I'm probably the only one that would say that. I don't know. So question number 7. What do you think is the biggest challenge for educators in the next coming weeks?
You know, we've just all, I think I'm not alone in my 1:30 in the morning wake-up call thinking about the coming school year. As a public school teacher, this concern hits really close to home. I've spent the last several months dialoguing with people about how to continue to provide a top quality learning experience. The most important challenge will be to create a safe and welcoming environment for all students on my Zoom screen. And teachers need to be cognizant of the fact that for some students, they'll feel most secure with their cameras off. Some students don't want to show their environment on camera, and sometimes, and I saw it in the spring as well with my seniors, sometimes students just don't want to be seen on camera. And I know so many of our teachers are developing strategies that will involve off-camera check-ins using the chat feature, daily emails, phone calls, and even non-academic time on Zoom to connect, like meditation or yoga or warm-up exercises using that chat feature. SB 98 requires educators to make contact in synchronous lessons for more, sorry, let me go back. SB 98 says that if students are not making contact for 2 or more days, that the teacher must reach out. And so CUSD is providing specific guidance for teachers for regular check-in protocols. And really a core element of teaching has always been, what do you want the students to learn? How are you going to get them to learn it? And how will you know that they learned it? And in an online setting, the usual tricks of the trade are just not going to work. It's a total reset for teachers. I can't see Michael tapping his fingers on the desk when I know he wants clarification on something. I can't see Joanna shifting in her seat because she wants me to non-verbally encourage her to raise her hand because I know she knows something and has something to contribute. So as teachers, we're going to need to have open and frequent discussions about what the students' needs are and how we can help them be successful. It's really about creating that safe environment. And I know many Claremont teachers have spent hours this summer recreating lessons and assessments in a digital format that are interactive and fun, but also contain the rigor necessary for student success. The learning isn't really the challenge, it's learning from a distance that's a challenge.
Yeah, I can see that. So what about for the parents and the guardians?
So and we're going to be doing it here as well. Establishing a routine and setting a schedule will be very important for student success. Creating the best learning environment in the home is critical. And I realize that people have space limitations, but creating some sort of space for learning that will set the tone for your child's attitude is really important. Your child's best learning is not going to be done eating cereal in bed in their pajamas. If school starts at 8, encourage your child to get dressed, have breakfast, and be ready to sit down for school at 8 o'clock and log on. And also that, they need some time, especially the little ones in the beginning of the year. They're going to need a refresher, how to get in, how to log on, how to mute themselves. So it's just going to be, there's some challenges ahead. And let me just say this, because we talked about it in our house as well. Even though your child isn't going to a campus, that doesn't mean they won't need some school supplies. So there's nothing like new pencils and crayons and highlighters to create a positive learning environment. And I mean, buy a backpack, have them pack their stuff up every night. And really the biggest challenge for parents is going to be to emulate the attitude they want their kids to follow. And I want to acknowledge that this is hard, really hard. But setting a positive tone, even though it's not going to be easy, your students are going to thrive on that positivity.
Absolutely. It's going to be a challenge, but we're all in this together, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so next question. During your time as a teacher, were you ever a site rep for your union or involved in any union activities? If so, why? If not, why not?
So I will answer this question with a little bit of, it's sort of not personal that I'm not going to tell you, but it's really my background. So in the beginning, I shied away from union activity because of my background as an attorney, simply because I didn't want to blend those two. And then all of a sudden I had a little kid and I was daycare pickup and I didn't have the time to make it to the after school meeting. So I never got the opportunity in the early days. Then when I was ready to become more involved, both of my parents, it was about a 8-year period where both of my parents were ill and with cancer, and I was a care provider and a parent at the same time and a teacher and, holding multiple leadership roles on campus. And I couldn't squeeze it in. So while I participate in union activities, I've never held an official position.
Cathy, in my mind, you are a super mom, and I get it. For you, family comes first, and that's important, I think, So what is your experience with the education of special needs students? Is there anything you would change about how things are run?
So I'm going to answer that from my own experience at my site, simply because I'm not on campus at any of the Claremont school sites. And just my own experience for years, I've spent a lot of time in special ed classrooms simply because my last name starts with A. So when they want period subs, I'm the first person they call. And so I would always help my friends out by going in and period subbing. So I've had experience in the classrooms. And I also regularly sit in. We are obviously mandated to sit in on IEPs and 504 meetings. And those are 504 meetings are for students who do not qualify for services that IEPs cover. And so as a teacher, I've had students on IEPs and 504s for 24 years in my classrooms, and I'm a rule follower, so we follow the IEP to the letter because we're required. We need to provide those services for our students. In terms of what I would change, I don't know that I would change anything unless it was apparent to me that services were not being provided, that the student was not achieving their goals in a manner that was in accordance with the IEP, or if there were equity issues. I would definitely champion the most vulnerable populations. Their voices need to be heard, they need representation. And so while I can't necessarily speak to things that go on at CUSD, I would definitely, be part of the conversation.
Yeah, great answer. Thank you. What do you see as the role of classified employees in the distance learning model?
That's a great question. And I think that there are a lot of ways for classified employees to assist. Now, I mean, there's different categories of classified employees, and classroom aides. Since I don't exactly know how all of this is going to work, Claremont is a month away. We're one day less than a month away from school starting. My school starts next week. We are at my site, we are having our classified employees participate actually with their students who have IEPs, and they'll be attending Zooms with them as they did in the spring. Now, we can't really say, I can't say anything for sure yet because both associations have to sign their memorandum of understandings. So I can't really, it's really unclear as to how that's all going to play out until the associations come to their agreements. However, in my own district, I do know that classified employees will all have specified roles, whether it be participating in Zooms or doing socially distant support activities on campus.
Great, thank you. Okay, so this is a follow-up question in regards to your thoughtful comments about the SRO responsibilities at CHS. After the murder of George Floyd, it's been widely reported that school districts, Minneapolis, Oakland, Portland, are terminating their contracts with the local police departments. Since you are so supportive of the SOR presence, what type of oversight do you propose the board can enact to ensure that the SRO is not targeting students by race? Please understand there are parents in the community who are terrified that their children could be racially profiled by police presence on campus.
So, first of all, the SRO is selected based on it's a combination between the district and the police department. And they really work very hard to hire a person who really has great interpersonal skills and will, create great relationships. I acknowledge the feelings of families who have children that are really, scared, and those conversations have to take place, and they will be taking place at the August board meeting. And I absolutely agree that oversight is key, that there needs to be really input from all stakeholders in terms of how to make sure that what has happened in other places doesn't happen in Claremont.
Great. Thank you very much. That was a very thoughtful response to a thoughtful question. I think we have come to the conclusion of our virtual meet and greet. Thank you all so much for listening in and for your thoughtful questions and follow-ups. And thank you, Cathy, for taking the time to share your platform with us as well. And your knowledge and expertise is we just appreciate it so much. In closing, I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone that we will be voting in 92 days. Now is the time to help our candidate get as many votes as possible. I believe school boards function best when you have a collaborative group of individuals with varying experiences and backgrounds working together. And at CUSD, as Cathy mentioned, we have 2 women retiring from the school board this year, and it's a loss for us, but I think we have a solution. Cathy, she is the only woman running, she is the only teacher running, and she's the only one who has had to implement distance learning from the front line. She knows what works and what doesn't, and these are unprecedented times, and we need responsible, thoughtful leadership, and that leader is Cathy. So thank you all so much. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cathy to say goodnight.
So thank you, Janessa, for hosting, and you did a lovely job, and thank you for all the lovely things you said about me. Thank you, participants, for really thoughtful questions and for joining our event this evening. If there is anything I haven't addressed, please feel free to reach out to me. As I said, you can join me at 1:30 in the morning. I'll answer your email. And honestly, I think it wouldn't be me if I wasn't worried about the upcoming school year. Even in normal circumstances, I'm always excited for the school year. And to be honest, I'm excited because I actually think that teachers are going to knock it out of the park this semester. Our kids are going to be well taken care of. And truly, I'm honored to be part of this campaign. If I'm elected, I pledge to serve with thoughtfulness and responsibility. I look forward to working collaboratively with all stakeholders to make sure that all students are successful. And so please join this call to action by going to my website at cathyarcher4cusd.com and click on endorsement to officially endorse me, express your financial support if you're able, and request a yard sign. I truly appreciate you taking the time to be here, and I respectfully ask for your vote in November. So with that, good night, everybody. Thank you so much. And thank you to my committee as well. Good night, everybody.